latest initiative, Get the Project. I'm Holly Martinez, Executive Director, and we're so excited to bring this initiative to you today. No matter who you are or where you live, intersectional gender stereotypes are hurting you and those you love. Through film, education, and activism, the Representation Project awakens consciousness, spotlights the cost of these stereotypes, and invites everyone to build a more equitable future. Our latest initiative we're bringing to you today is Get the Project, which is working to do just this, connect the mission of our organization to the next generation of youth leaders. So let me tell you a little bit more about Get the Project. This comprehensive initiative purposes the best of our films, tools, and decades of learning into easy to access and free suite of youth offerings that include: one, a dynamic curriculum composed of 8 modules covering some of the most pervasive issues youth experience today. 2, an online hub for young people to access and connect with material. And 3, youth clubs that will be started by our Youth Advisory Council members to help drive cultural change in schools, communities, and in homes. Get the Project was informed by and designed for high school and college students with the goal to build a more equitable future and is needed now more than ever. From statistics and recent data, we know nearly half of high school students are experiencing sexual harassment. 1 in 5 have seriously considered suicide in the past year. Social media has exacerbated these issues, with 1 in 14 saying it negatively affects their well-being, and nearly half report it makes them feel bad about their bodies. Joining us today to talk about these issues and to share more about the initiative is our incredible group of panelists, starting with our very own Youth Programs Director, Ariella Neckritz. Ariella leads initiatives that foster gender equity and empower young change makers at the Representation Project. They develop the gender equity training curriculum and spearheads the Youth Advisory Council. Ariella was also featured as a high school student in our very own Misrepresentation film. Next is Melanie Berner, English department teacher and mindfulness instructor at the Thacher School. Melanie leads mindfulness programming, teaches English, and advises sophomore girls at the Thacher School in Ojai, California. She has previously taught at the University of Nevada, St. Paul School, the Hill School. At Thacher, she helped supervise the GAP curriculum pilot. We welcome Cindy Pierce to this panel. Cindy is a social sexuality educator, storyteller, and author. Combining comic storytelling and years of research, she engages audiences with her message about making healthy choices and navigating cultural pressures. Last but never least is Ashley Shaubzada, a college student. As a college student, Ashley facilitated the GAT curriculum during its pilot, leading workshops for 2 English classes at the public high school in Northeast Los Angeles. She also contributed to the editing of the curriculum. Ashley now works as a social media manager for an organization that advances women in STEAM. Thank you so much to our panelists for joining us. Ariella, let's start with you. You've been developing this initiative for over a year now, so this has been a long time coming. Tell us how it started and what inspired Get the Project.
So it was the idea of our founder, Jennifer Siebel Newsom. She wanted to create a really comprehensive resource for youth that speaks to the needs of Gen Z. So the curriculum brings together these critical issues that we highlight in each of our films, like media representation, healthy masculinity, gender bias, or equity in the home. So we're aiming to address the intersections and build a more holistic gender justice analysis. In creating the curriculum, I really developed the tools that I wished I'd had when I was a high school student featured in Misrepresentation. I wished I'd had a workshop about healthy body image or the history of gender justice activism. And so this was an opportunity for us to build that toolbox for the next generation of youth leaders.
Thank you, Ariella, for all of your work on this. And what can people expect to see and experience with Get the Curriculum, as well as the Hub and Clubs?
Yes, so the curriculum includes 8 multimedia 1 hour modules packed with engaging activities, videos, and ways to take action. And the clubs are a way for youth to bring these critical conversations to their school. And the hub offers a space online for these youth leaders to connect and develop a community of gender justice advocates. The curriculum was designed for and informed by high school and college students. So it integrated feedback from our Youth Advisory Council and student pilot facilitators. The module topics that the curriculum covers are media and rigid gender roles, healthy masculinities, healthy body image, healthy dating relationships, implicit gender bias, sexual misconduct, social media and mental health, and gender justice activism. So we're weaving together leadership development, mental health interventions, social media, well-being, media literacy, social emotional learning, and gender-based violence prevention. And with the modules, each one includes a PowerPoint to really guide participants through the workshop experience. And then also we have a facilitation guide. So it's set up that anyone, a student, a teacher, or a parent can facilitate. And all of these resources are free. We want to make it accessible to everyone. And students who complete the whole program can request a certificate to really celebrate and share this achievement.
That's incredible. I love how this project and initiative really makes it available and sort of you can embrace it as your own, whether you're an educator or a parent trying to talk about these challenging topics or just among your peers. So let's shift over to Cindy. Cindy, so great to have you here with us and to bring your expertise to this discussion. Can you share a little bit about the challenges you believe students are facing today when it comes to harmful gender norms and stereotypes?
Yeah, I think all kids of all genders are really being locked into gender straitjackets, which are in the binary, which is reinforced what I call the tidal wave of cultural messaging, which is perpetuated and magnified by social media, which isn't all bad, of course, but kids are getting phones younger and younger. I'm hearing out in LA and where I speak in Colorado and ski towns, and kids are getting phones at the age of 8, and that messaging is getting them. And parents are giving them phones to be safe, where they say, okay, they can be reached, but what they're not considering is what they don't see, which is out of sight, out of mind, and letting their kids be exposed to all sorts of material. And there is this movement to let kids be more have more experiences, to be more feral in the way of getting out in the neighborhood, getting out in, on public, transportation and in the woods. But when kids are, but so give them that kind of freedom. Don't ride them, give them more playtime, but really be more mindful as, delaying giving phones, um, monitoring kids and teaching them how to use that. But it takes a lot more time and energy and difficult conversations for parents. But kids want to feel seen, heard, and known. That's normal. And how can we balance? Like, it's so fantastic that kids are talking about their mental well-being online. However, in some ways, as Dr. Jonathan Haidt of NYU, who wrote The Anxious Generation, says, we're almost valorizing mental health struggles. And where's the balance? We want to honor that. We want kids to feel comfortable talking about that and getting support, but also not making it their identity and how they're seen and heard.
I appreciate that. And you've written a book, College and Social Media, a common sense guide to navigating the hookup culture. You explore some really, interesting and important topics of sexual violence and dating abuse and harmful media influence. As we heard from Ariella, Get the Project curriculum hits on some of these issues. Why do you believe it's crucial for these issues and to have programming cover topics like media literacy, consent, healthy relationships, gender roles, and digital well-being?
Just starting with consent, it's interesting that a lot of high school and college kids can recite and they know by heart the definition of consent, sexual consent. Obviously, we need to start talking to kids about consent in friendship and personal space, starting when they're very little. And that really converts. If we get that to them, it can convert to sexual relationships. but it's difficult for kids and young people to apply that understanding of consent in the context where it is needed most, whether it's pushing boundaries or letting up on boundaries, the influence of alcohol, the pressures, friends who knew your intention was to hook up with this person or to hook up in general. And all of these other factors come into play that skew one's understanding of consent in in the context of a sexual encounter with a partner, whether it's hooking up or even with a committed partner. And so I think consent is a big schools talk about it constantly, but it's just so difficult to apply where it's needed. And as far as healthy relationships, I think there's so many messages online, and I won't get into some of those, but you can see whether it's social media, whether it's all the different places where kids and young people are getting messages about relationships. It can be very confusing. And I talk to kids about pleasure, about all of these influences, and I'm motivated to talk about the hard things because that's what I'm hearing from young people. But a common question of seniors in college, there'll be a kid who's bold enough and will say, okay, I got pleasure, I got consent, I get this, but how do I talk to a person I'm interested in? And that those social skills are lacking, and kids are struggling, and young people, students are struggling to find their way. Um, and social media is making it worse, is adding to the pressure. And Jonathan Haidt talks about parents delaying phones, delaying social media, giving kids flip phones. And when they asked college students, they said, what could we pay you to not be on two social media platforms for 1 month? And the students actually said, what could we pay you to make sure everyone was off it? And I thought that's so mind-blowing, that it's that if everyone was off it, then you don't feel this pressure to be on it and to be engaged in it. And I thought that was really interesting.
That is very interesting. And I think you talk about the social behaviors and the awkwardness of how do you start a conversation with your peer or somebody you're interested in. And I'm going to go back to your previous answer, which you talked about going out in nature, being with your friends, socializing. So much of that is so critical in the development. Not only are we equipping our young people with tools on how to understand these issues, but how do you live them? How do you interact in ways that can really help you connect and build your confidence to succeed in the discussions that you want to have? Thank you so much, Cindy, for that. I really appreciate that, as so many of our participants on today's webinar. Melanie, I'm going to shift to you. You played a critical role in the pilot of Get the Curriculum. Thank you so much for that, by the way. Based on your experience, how is the gender equity training curriculum unique?
Well, first of all, it was a really wonderful experience piloting the curriculum at the Thacher School. I think we had quite a lot of kids that were excited to see something like this on campus. Sort of speaking to everything that Cindy Pierce just talked about. There's actually a need for, and kids really want this at the high school level. And we have lots of programming on campus that addresses some of these things, some of the, like social media and consent, but not in quite the interactive way that I think the Representation Project curriculum did, that we found. So we had a good group of students that participated in the pilot of the curriculum. And I think what I found unique about it was kind of having kids in a room together to talk about some of these things, their own personal experience, or, in a sort of safe space where they were able to say, like, well, I wasn't aware of these things, or like, I know that I have these habits on social media, but I don't know what to do about it. And so I really loved the interactive nature of it. That felt really great. I really liked that it also focused on that it wasn't just about female experience. There's the masculinity piece of it, which is really important, because I think sometimes when we think about things like media, we think about sexism and misogyny, and not the flip side of that, which is, or the umbrella of that, which is that it harms, gender non-binary and male identifying students and folks as well. So yeah, does that answer the question?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to hear a little more like on some of those critical conversations. Were the tools like, tell us about how educational tools have delved into topics like healthy body image. Talked a little bit about social media, but did any of them sort of make the bridge between their own self-worth, mental health, how they see themselves? And I kind of like to equate it back to what Cindy said, like, have you seen conversations morph into like, why don't we all get off social media at the same time so that we can all continue to be in this together?
Yes, for sure. There were quite a few conversations about that, and a lot of students, we actually do like a screen time challenge at Thacher once a year, where we emphasize like getting off your screens. There's always a move to sort of say like at least delete the social media apps from your phone, so that you don't have as like instant access to them. And every year it's kind of amazing. Students are really hesitant to do it because they're worried about what everyone else is doing. And there were conversations within like the social media unit of the representation project where the students did talk about, I would love to delete such and such social media app, but that's how everyone communicates these days, for example. Or they feel like they literally will not know what's going on campus or with their friends, because they don't even really text anymore, and they definitely don't call. So I think that really is a concern, is that they'll be sort of obsolete if they're not on the social media apps.
So are there ideas and ways, and Cindy and Melanie, or Ashley, even you and Ariella, you know, are there ways to continue to support sort of like a digital detox combined with this training, or opportunities to get connected with each other through clubs or even the online hub where we know it's safe content, safe spaces? That is one of the ideas we have here, is creating these safe opportunities so that our youth and our young people are in this together. But what other ideas or opportunities do you think can help support that type of healthy action?
Should I go, or Melanie, do you want to go?
Yes,
Go
please.
ahead.
I think parents are a big part of this when kids are even in high school. And obviously it's getting the genie back in the bottle a lot of the times when it comes to, I know I've handed over the phone and you are on the loose here, but having those difficult conversations. But parents, talking to schools, parents who unite in a community, who have they often feel alone and they're the only one who wants to limit. And self-regulation, kids don't learn self-regulation till they're sometimes a decade into their phone use. So they really are seeking it, but they need it to be modeled. First of all, they need parents to create, really, being a mentor around the phone. Devorah Heitner gives a lot of good guidance on how to be a mentor around social media. But when you give a phone, you don't just hand it over and let them loose. You actually, when they're younger, you actually go with them and say, we're going to do an account together. And that's Devorah Heitner's approach. But there's a lot of Children in Screens has great digital guidance. That's a great resource. They have really specific guidance, but engaging parents through the school. So many schools this year are doing the pockets that are magnet. They come into school and the magnet and every kid's got their phone, they have it, but they can't access it. And of course, some kids are finding the magnet, the thing that can undo the magnet. But generally, if you can get most kids on board, you can't leave it to teachers. It's unfair to teachers to be, some are more lenient, some are not assertive enough. So it really has to be a community effort, I think. And parents need to find each other, schools supporting parents, parents supporting the school. But it's an effort that is worthwhile.
Yeah, and I would say so much of that resonates with me. I'm also a parent. I have a 10-year-old, and I love that he will be the first one to call me out on like screen time stuff if and we have lots of conversations about it. He does not have a phone. But he, and we talk about the reasons why. And I think as an educator, students can often feel like there's an us versus them dynamic, right? That we're the adults, we're telling them what they can and can't do, what they shouldn't do, what's bad for them. And I think just those conversations that started happening when we did the representation project curriculum, especially around social media, of, just sort of empowering students and educating them in a way that they can sort of help make those decisions. Again, it's hard with the peer influence and, but instead of us telling them like, this is bad, you shouldn't, this is bad, if they can actually see, those ways. And I think as a meditation and mindfulness teacher, also, helping students just sort of say like, how do you feel when you're on social media? Like take a moment to pause and notice. Does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel happier? Does it make you feel healthier, better, whatever the, adjective may be? Or does it make you feel like, a way that isn't so great? And if so, then what can you do? Can you, limit your time? Can you like get a buddy to like, you can agree that you're gonna, text that person or whatever and say like, let's go for a walk or do something, just to notice, observe, like how does it make you feel? What are the ways that you're reacting? And if it is something that truly makes you feel good and it brings you joy, then, think about that too.
Could I just add something about meditation? Melanie, I think your school has such a long history with meditation, which of all the schools I've visited, I have not seen like it is at the Thacher School. And the beauty of mindfulness and meditation is you're in your own head with no distraction, even though all our brains can be like, zinging around and you've got but that's part of it. Acknowledge it and come back to breath or come back to your base. But I think kids need practice being in their own heads without distraction. And meditation is, whether they do it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, it really makes a difference and just brings the pulse down for kids so that they get a sense of that and experience with that. And I think it converts.
Cindy, I love that you mentioned that because actually we integrated some breathwork opportunities within the curriculum because we know these topics can be difficult, they can be charged. And so we invite our participants to have those opportunities to be with themselves, to come back to the breath as a part of the curriculum, utilizing so many different tools to support young people in having these hard conversations. And I think one thing that we try to do to address thinking about these next steps is after every workshop, we answer the what next question. So we include, different additional activities that students can do, whether it takes 10 seconds, 10 minutes, 10 hours, 10 days. We offer them a variety of options for ways that they continue their activism. And we also offer action steps. So on the workshop about social media and mental health, obviously we talk about limiting screen time, but we also talk about, disabling notifications, unplugging and taking breaks, scheduling social media detoxes, removing the apps from your phone. We try to address the aimless scrolling and offer students real actionable ways that they can support themselves. And we see this with across all of our workshops, that's the end of our learning opportunity, is really closing out with, okay, you learned about healthy body image, or you learned about healthy masculinities. What can you do to integrate these learnings into your daily life and support your well-being, support your community, and create a more equitable world?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ariella. And on that note, Ashley, when you were facilitating these trainings yourself, how did the students respond? Did you see some of those responses, whether it's taking a moment to breathe or participate in some of these action items? I would love to hear how students experience this curriculum.
Yeah, so because we had so many different types of activities the students were able to participate in, it gave a chance for not just the extrovert students to have a way for them to actually engage, but also for the introvert students as well. So we had journaling prompts, but we also had more of the engaging activities where you would raise your hand or you would share out loud or in a circle something about the module we're going over. So I remember one student in particular had told me in our healthy relationships module that they had actually really appreciated that we had that concept and we were sharing it, because not every single person is taught what a healthy relationship is, what are red and green flags. And they started sharing more about their own personal experiences in their homes, and same with the gender roles in their homes, saying, oh yeah, like my parents do this or that, and I'm taught that I'm supposed to do this, but I enjoy doing, the other roles that are not really something that everybody says are for my gender. So I think these modules and this whole gender equity facilitation actually allowed the students to have a safe place where they were able to share about their own personal experiences, but also what they were recognizing around them in their friendships, in their home. And at first I was kind of nervous because I was like, I'm not sure if these students are going to take me seriously as somebody who's coming in that's not their teacher, as a sub, as a facilitator. But once they saw the concepts we were talking about, because they were able to recognize them in their own experiences, it actually became the safe space where they were able to share. And we were able to actually get to know each other a little bit more, which I really appreciated.
I love hearing that. Thank you for sharing. And as a young person yourself, not only delivering the curriculum, but now in your role doing social media for important topics like STEM, how is you delivering this curriculum and having these like really important, meaningful conversations with youth, how has that sort of changed your view on gender equity and activism, if it has?
Well, with this role that I had as a facilitator, I actually also benefited from a lot of the resources and the activities I was teaching these students, because I realized I can also participate in these myself. And the resources were a great help as well. And I still do sometimes go on the representation project's website and I look for those resources to find the research that's being done. So that way I can apply it into my social media job, where I'm making sure I'm representing those girls in STEM who are not being shown on screen. So I do utilize those tools a lot more myself. And I do still do some of the activities like the journaling, doing the breath work. So I think it not only helped me teach others about it, but also helped me apply those in my life and realize, you know, I can be a gender equity advocate by doing multiple things, not just going out and protesting about it, but sharing it on my social media, making sure I set up those healthy boundaries in my own relationships. And it really has been a great help in that kind of a way for myself.
I love hearing that. And I think, I am also a mother of a 14-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter. And even developing and working on this curriculum with Ariella and our entire team of the representation project, it opened my eyes to realize it's never too young to start these conversations in certain ways. I believe the latest research, I think Glennon Doyle mentions, being at 10 years old is when, our youth really start to question and be influenced by, how they should look, how they should feel about things when it comes to their gender and who to love. And I think starting conversations early about, some of these introductory topics is incredible. It's an incredible resource as a parent to use this curriculum, as well as educators and people in the community and clubs and so forth. So I really, really do appreciate you all coming on and sharing your perspective with this incredible initiative and bringing your own expertise and experiences to this discussion. On that note, I do want to stop asking all the questions and allow for our viewers to ask. We can take a couple questions now. So let me pull up the Q&A really quick. Our first question from an anonymous attendee. Thank you for this great conversation. You're very welcome. How, if at all, are your films integrated into the curriculum? Okay, I'll take this question, and Ariella, you can help me here. Our films are definitely integrated and clipped into the curriculum. 3 of our films, starting with Misrepresentation, The Mask You Live In, and Fair Play, are all featured throughout the 8 different modules. And Ariella, do you want to share a little bit about any of those topics, or if I've missed anything on our films?
Yeah, I think what's great about this new curriculum is we are bringing all these different conversations together and offering kind of a progression for students to learn about all these topics and connect with one another. And it's multimedia. We're watching clips from Misrep. We're also looking at statistics from, the research the Representation Project has done around, media representation. So we're integrating so many different aspects of our work and bringing all of those pieces together.
Thank you. Okay, question 2. Do you envision adding more modules in the future? I don't know, Ariella, are we?
I think that this current toolbox has a lot of topics that we hope can meet the needs of students now. I know today we've talked a lot about social media and mental health, but we also have a workshop about implicit gender bias. And so I think as we're having all these conversations about thinking about inclusion and building inclusive communities, we're trying to meet the moment. And we know that the needs of students, the needs of communities will shift. And so I hope as things shift and as new films come out, we can add more workshop offerings and make more tools accessible to continue these critical conversations.
I will also add, we are on sort of the final stages of Misrepresentation 2.0, Jen Newsom's latest film. It's called Misrepresentation, the Revolution, and it's, looking 10 years from the original Misrepresentation. What are our youth and what are people experiencing today when it comes to gender equality? What is the influence of social media? And many of these topics, this curriculum, is focusing in on. So I can't imagine we will have, many more opportunities to expand this curriculum and this education. And really, the opportunity is in everyone's hand to give us feedback and thoughts about topics that come up in discussion, so we can evolve this curriculum and evolve the tools that we offer, to the public that can help them continue to support, their understanding and experiences that they're having in the community, and to have these very important conversations, and most importantly, feel that they have this peer-to-peer opportunity to connect with each other and sort of challenge these stereotypes and challenge the norms that we are seeing happening in our communities, to do it together, to take that mantra, Cindy, of like, well, if I get off social media, can you make everyone else do it too? And I think it's going to start with our youth saying today, we all want to do this together. And the best way to do this is to get this curriculum, conversation, clubs, hubs, and all these other tools, even beyond our own organization, into homes, into schools, into communities. So on that note, as we wrap up this panel, I just want to thank again our incredible panelists for sharing so much of their insights, for being ambassadors of this work in your own rights and regards. A special thank you, Ariella, for your hard work on this, and everyone at the Representation Project for making this program possible, from the beautiful design to the easy flow of this curriculum, And to everyone who joined us today, thank you for your engagement and your thoughtful questions. We're so excited to continue this journey with you. Please be on the lookout for an email from us with more information so you can get the project today. And if you're not already, please consider joining our membership program and support the Representation Project. It's because of your support and donations that we can continue to do this important work and create free tools for everyone to challenge gender stereotypes and change norms for our future. To learn more about this work and what we're up to, visit us at therepproject.org. And thank you so much for joining us.